As a result of one of our YouTube chats that happen every third Sunday of every month, this particular one was on value contrast. Someone during the chat asked the question, what if you run out of values? Then what do you do? Well, this person says, as a result of that, could you do a quick tip on the lesser or non-gradation in a non-rounded object? I'm assuming that this person is asking for a flat surface. If it doesn't have form, if it's not rounded, then we assume it's flat. Well then, what do we have as flat surfaces that we would use in a painting? We have walls, we have other things too. And so I'm assuming this person is asking for how do you handle the painting of something that would be like a wall, a flat surface. But can you have non-gradation and be able to see it or read what it is? Now this is the closest to non-gradation that we can get would be a surface of the same color, same value, all the way across, or within the whole thing. But then when you have light involved in it, and you have to have light in order to see it, you're going to have some gradation. Now here's a photograph I found. There's a blank wall, one little thing on the wall there. A blank ceiling, we have a few little nicks and necks in the ceiling, another blank wall, light coming in from a window. It may appear at first to not have gradation, but it does. It has light going to darker, light going to darker. It has, even in the corners there, you have the cast shadow of the door frame beside it here. Over here you have a little bit of a cast shadow caused by the door here reflecting the light. So you're going to have some sort of gradation within that flat surface. But it's a very narrow one, and there's some ways we can make that more interesting, and that's what I'll show you here. So let's just use this as our guide. Now I've put out on my palette a full range of values that I won't need all of. If I were going to do a painting of this whole thing, just an abandoned room that has all these blank walls and stuff, I would need this full range of values. And you see I've chosen these colors because of what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing warm here that feels kind of like an orange, in the orange range. I'm seeing cool here where I'm seeing a little bit of cool blue. And so I know that if I use if I use the Rembrandt transparent oxide red or burnt sienna or quedaclone burnt orange, I can have that full range of that low intensity that we're seeing here, orange. And I also know that if I use ultramarine blue with that, I could create that lower intensity. Well, what do I see here? Let's just look at just this right here. What do I see there? I see warm moving to cooler, or cool moving to warmer, but I also see here cool moving to warmer. So if we vary and alternate warm and cool and slightly vary value, or one other little trick I want to show you, you can interpret any wall and make it interesting to look at. Now if you just take white paint, you have nothing. People are not going to be interested in, unless it's something that's meant to be sort of abstracted or conceptual. But let's just look at what we have here. Now, if I was starting, I'll just work out a little area in here to show you what I'm talking about. If I start at any point in here, I could say start right here. I might start with, I go down to this lightest value I have here on my palette of that warm color. By itself, it is something like this. Now see, you can barely see that as a warm color. Now, I can move a little of the next value into it, just a little bit, and I'm going to get a little bit more variation in the value. Now we can do that sort of thing where we alternate the value. You see what I mean by alternate is we have a slightly lighter value in one area, a slightly darker value in the other, and then a slightly lighter value in the next area. So we can alternate that and create interest. But not only that, we can alternate the temperature. So if I load my brush in the warm color and pull just a little bit of the cooler color into it, I've changed it so that I get something like this. Can you see the difference there? That this is beginning to get just a little bit cooler. Now I can continue to work the cool, and as I'm moving towards what might be the corner, let's say the corner might be right up there, I continue to work towards what might be the corner. I want you to notice how your eye, let's alternate that just a little bit, have a little bit of the cool and the warm. We have very warm right here, and that's moving a little bit cooler. Notice how your eye begins to feel that as a little darker. Let's see if I make that corner right there, and then I'll blend, use the brush, the tip of the brush, and blend that back into the warm. You see how your eye sort of interprets that as being a little bit darker. In reality, if you squint at it, they're very much the same value. But we get that feeling, sort of like we get right here, of the warm to the cool. Now we could do the entire wall that way. Whereas we're moving where the light's hitting the strongest, with the light hitting strongest, say the light may be here and it's going right down in here hitting the strongest, we can use the warmer of the colors, but then begin to cool it as that wall or whatever goes up and begins to get a little bit darker as it goes up like to the top. Blend that down like this. Then we can alternate and let a little bit of that cool kind of pop out through there. And we can take that attitude. You see, I haven't really varied the value in any of that. I just varied the temperature. Now, he said, she, I think it was he, says non-gradating. Well, it's not possible to show non-gradating or show an image, interpret an image that you're going to read a two-dimensional image, a three-dimensional image on a two-dimensional surface. Well, a flat surface is really a two-dimensional image. But it's not really possible to have non-gradating. You're going to have some kind of gradating, but rather than gradate with value, you can gradate with temperature. And I hope that I've answered that as being a way to work around the non-gradating value. Now, if you wanted to really emphasize, see, I'm just getting kind of a little alternation of warm, cool here. You see? And you see, by doing that, let's go right in here as we're going down and making it a little bit cooler as we go down. By doing that, working, letting some comes that warm show through, letting some of the cool show through a little bit cooler as it gets closer to where there's not quite so much light. You can see there that you can make a relatively interesting wall without using gradation of value. Now we can see that even better. You see, right now it's against white, so this showing against white will show that. But you can make that more interesting and more readable by going to the next layer or another surface that would move in another direction in a darker value of a different temperature or a cooler temperature, let's say. So let's say if I go down the value scale, go to a slightly darker color, and let's get that a little bit more neutral, so color between warm and cool. Now if I go down like here, watch the contrast. The contrast is going to enable us to see this more clearly. And that's what value contrast does. You see, I'm very, very close. If you squint, very close to this. Now I get a gradation in here. I get a variation in here, and that same variation can be warm and cool. So as I'm moving this darker value across in this direction, I get it just a little bit warmer. As I'm moving across in this direction, a little bit warmer. And this time I can make it even more blended, and it won't be so evident that I'm actually gradating, just by barely letting there be a very gradual gradation, you see, of warm to cool here. And do that by just picking up a little bit warmer color each time in the brush. You see how this gets a little bit warmer? A little bit warmer. Not changing the value at all, staying in the same value range of those two colors. And then I get into this side. Even though that gets lighter there, I can actually feel the interpretation of that as light by making it a little bit warmer. So this is as close. You can see, oh, by the way, before I say that, before I wrap this up, we could continue that little process all the way around, and you could see then how you can actually use the variation in temperature to show a perception of gradation from light into a little bit more dark, from light into a little bit more shadow. You can show that perception by actually varying the temperature rather than varying the value. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.